and welcome to Words That Matter, a modern day book club. I'm Lee Smith. I'm your host, and I'm really eager to get to our subject today. It's a new novel, and basically I'll give you the title first, and then we're going to introduce our guest. The title is The Attack: A Novel of Terrorism in America, recently published. This is basically making a novel of what a lot of people, the nightmare visions that many people started to have, inspired by Hamas's October 7th invasion of southern Israel. And our guest today has turned it into an amazing novel, a really harrowing read. And I recommend you go out and get it. And we're going to be speaking with him for the next half hour. Welcome, please, Kurt Schlichter. Kurt, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, look, Kurt, as I said, I mean, this is something I know is going through my mind. I mean, when I was looking at the October 7th attacks, as many of us were early in the day on October 7th, while we were still recovering, while we were still dealing with the shock of what was happening in Israel, these animals from Hamas, a lot of people were thinking, well, look, we actually have our southern border open, and there are a lot of bad people who are coming across that border, and we don't know who any of them are. And you wrote a novel about it. First, let me just ask you, how long did it take you to write this book? Again, congratulations. It's an incredibly written book. So again, congrats. But how long did it take you to write this?
Well, thanks. I wrote it in a cold fury. I basically started it on October 10th. I finished the first draft on November 29th.
Wow.
And then I polished it up for about 5 or 6 weeks.
Wow. It's a very passionate book. It's an angry book. It's a book of warning. I mean, I think you're expressing your anger about what happened on October 7th and your anger about what's going on here at our southern border. Our leadership is letting dangerous people by the millions cross.
You put your finger right on it. This book is, initially I thought I've got to write something about this because we are in danger. Now, I'm a retired Army colonel, war college graduate. Been doing this stuff for a while. I have a lot of people in the government, intelligence community, military, vets, that kind of thing. And everybody sees the opportunity from the enemy. It's so obvious, and it's so simple what they can do, their capabilities, that I felt I had to write about. I initially started, I'm going to write nonfiction. But that wasn't, I got some advice from some folks, and they said, no, you write a lot of fiction. You got the Kelly Turnbull series of conservative action novels. If you really want to tell this story, you've got to tell it through fiction so people feel it. So people feel it in their gut. And what The Attack is, it's a novel structured like Sir John Hackett's Third World War, which is very influential in starting the Reagan Revolution in military affairs back in the early 80s, and a little bit of World War Z by Max Brooks. What it does is it's 40 chapters from 40 different people, people with different roles. A Secret Service guy observing what the president does, Army general, a police officer called to a mass shooting and finds, he's in the middle of a war, a TV reporter who's caught in the middle, normal people caught in the middle of it, and normal people trying to put things together after. What I posit is basically a 3-day attack using people smuggled in over the border, lightly trained. These are not infantrymen. These are guys taught to use very simple weapons, AK-47s, which are also smuggled in by cartels. They don't need command and control. All the problems I had as a commander get solved when you have suicide attackers. I don't have command and control problems. I don't have communications problems. I don't have intelligence problems. I don't have logistics problems because you never have to resupply them. The basic of the first day of the 3 days is all these little groups that don't know about each other Very simple instructions. Go to this place, kill everyone you see, and keep killing people until they kill you. And we saw in Boston, Lee, remember those two
Yeah.
idiots with the pressure cookers?
Right.
No training. A couple of handguns. I mean, very light weapons. They shut down an entire United States city, an entire American city, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of heavily armed police. See, the problem is our first responders, alleged first responders, as you see in the book, the real first responders are individual citizens, often armed. Uh, the problem with our first responders is a law enforcement mentality is very different than what we're facing here. If you look at the Hollywood shootout in 1998, or the movie
Right.
Heat, for instance, as soon as police officers operate by building up fears to de-escalate the situation, military people build up force to escalate the situation and get dominance that way. So suddenly, our police are not designed to fight terrorists. That's why they had to evolve from mass shooters, evolve from the let's seal it all off and get the SWAT guys here to, all right, you, and you follow me. We're going in. If I get killed, you fire and you take them down. So it's a very different mentality. And imagine that times a couple thousand, and you've got day one of the attack. And there are 2 more days of it with different targets. This is not, I'm not giving anything away here, Lee. This is all obvious stuff. The not obvious stuff did not make it into the book. Okay, I'm not going to give anybody hints about things that everybody doesn't already know. But what everybody already knows is horrifying.
Let's talk about, you're going through, so the attack basically starts, you give dates to it. I mean, you're not being Nostradamus here. You're writing a book.
Right.
The first attack is, as you say, in public spaces, right? The second attack,
yes.
and this is what I think was really unnerving about October 7th in Israel, was we saw terrorists going
yes.
into people's homes, dragging them out of their homes, killing them in their homes.
Yes.
And that, in your book, that's the second day of the attack, right? People, terrorists going to homes. Can you describe
yes.
that a bit?
Well, look, the terrorists, you've got to understand that terrorism is an information operation. It's not a kinetic operation. Okay? You're not going to destroy an army. You're not going to wipe out American combat power. What you're doing is targeting American morale. You're energizing people who say America should withdraw from the world. Look at all these thousands and thousands of dead Americans because we dared participate in events around the globe. That's kind of what happened in Israel. They weren't going to hold ground for long. They were going to hold ground for a little while and use it to maximize their information capability. What they did is they went house to house butchering people in the most horrible ways, including rape. But they didn't hide it. They publicized it. They filmed it. They uploaded it because they wanted people to see. The second day of the attack is that. Because understanding COVID, as soon as there's these horrible attacks, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of them around the country, people are going to get locked down. So they're in their homes, and the forces are distributed guarding public spaces because that's what was attacked. So the enemy goes and finds suburban areas, urban areas where you have unprotected people in their homes. Now, in some areas where you don't have a Second Amendment culture, like the one I live in, for instance, here in Los Angeles, they're not going to get a lot of pushback. But we see that. In other areas where they do have that, we also see the kind of pushback that can happen because, Lee, I hear a lot from dumb people that, armed civilians don't have no effect. They don't matter. Oh, no. If I'm leading 5 killers murdering innocent people and one guy shows up with a handgun, suddenly I have to reorient my entire squad, not on my mission, but on eliminating that threat. And that gives normal people the chance to get away, to take cover. Police build up combat power. So the idea of armed American citizens in a situation like this, of widespread rape and murder, um, it is a hugely valuable and vital tool, and one that we see the enemy has somewhat underestimated, as we see through the second day of the attack, and then of course the third day
Can you talk
has a
about the
different.
third day? Again, I don't want to give away the book to readers, but as soon as readers get into the book, you make it clear that there are 3 different days. It's a 3-day attack. I mean, I think that's right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Some people tried to call it 8, 27, and 29, but it's just referred to
Yes.
as the attack.
There is a character unnamed, the author, who kind of walks through and does these interviews and introduces. And you'll learn a little about him as he goes on and what happened to him in the attack, which was not good. But he points out, there are hints through the book. Look, I had to not only make it a novel to give information, I had to make it a novel that people would want to read.
Yeah.
And it is entertaining. There are horrible parts. There are some parts that were painful to write, but those are the parts you've got to read. But the third day of the attack, again, they've attacked public spaces. First day, second day, they attack people's private spaces, which is exponentially more horrifying. Third day is when they try and actually cause some longer lasting damage. You attack infrastructure. And we live in a permissive society, a high trust society, a safe society. A lot of our infrastructure is unprotected because to normal people, it never occur to you to go take out a transformer. And I'll mention transformers because it's widely known that they are vulnerable and that people have attacked them in the past. And a guy with a rifle can do a lot of damage to transformers. But there are other vulnerable infrastructure targets. And of course, this is all aided by the kind of lunatics who set themselves on fire in front of embassies, to support terrorists. There are Americans, the Antifa types, a lot of college types, who could be enrolled in supporting this kind of bloodshed and murder.
Well, I want to say you have a great chapter, and again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to give anything away. I'm not going to give away any of your laugh lines, but you have a great chapter with a Harvard University professor early on in the book, and he talks about that. He talks about the Antifa figures, the radicals in school who get involved in this, and of course, this is something else that we've seen happening after October 7th. Kurt, we're just going to cut away for 1 minute. We have people watching on YouTube, and here's a piece of advice. Watch us exclusively on Epoch TV. We're making the jump now. So if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you make the jump exclusively to Epoch TV. You're not going to want to miss a single second of a great conversation with the great Kurt Schlichter. We're talking about his recently published novel, The Attack, a novel of terrorism in America. You got to go out and get it, but you got to come back so you hear Kurt for the next 15 minutes. See you in less than a minute.
To keep the focus on climate change, that's the priority for the activists that are pushing this. And the goal there is to defund oil and gas. The activists that are pushing this are led by the United Nations, member governments, a whole global network of NGOs. Every bond that's issued in the market institutionally is going to have to come with that seal of approval, kind of like food inspection. So that would be the gatekeeper to prevent market access by firms and industries that are viewed as politically incorrect. You become the target if you speak out. If you're a public company, that exposes you even more. If you've already set what the ESG agenda is, you don't really need people with analytical skills. You just need people to repeat what the goal is. It's socialism, and it's a controlled market, and it's going to change the nature of a job in the industry.
How did the climate change agenda have so much success, and why did they target Wall Street?
Because that's where the money is, and that's going to provide the funding for this agenda.